Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Attorney Poonam Minhas, back with another immigration update, and today's video is going to be about getting ready in advance before your USCIS interview. So I'm here today to get you organized, to make sure you have all your documents before you have your interview. And if you have been handling your case by yourself and you need a lawyer to take a look at everything that you've gathered, everything that you've been submitting to USCIS or ready to take with you to the interview, this will get you organized so you're not going everywhere, looking under drawers and picking things up and trying to ruffle through paperwork to make sure you have a full file. So if you are not organized or you are organized and maybe you're just missing a few things that you want to, keep organized for USCIS, then you should watch this video because I'm here to help you. Okay, so you have an interview coming up. Let's just say you just recently filed your application. It could be any application. It could be the citizenship application, marriage-based green card application. It could even be your H-1B, whatever it is. You are now in the process of waiting for USCIS to send you a receipt notice, or you're far along the process where you're waiting for an update or an RFE or something. So you filed your application and you submitted some documents and you didn't really have much because let's just say you're a newlywed. That's okay. There's nothing to worry about. What you do want to do is whatever you submitted to USCIS, you want to make sure you have the exact copy of each page, each evidence saved in a folder in advance. So let's just say if you receive an RFE from USCIS and they're stating you didn't submit a birth certificate and you're like, wait a second, I totally sent the birth certificate. They may ask for it again. It's not the end of the world. Just read the RFE, make sure you see what they're asking for, and just answer the RFE right away and respond to it on a timely basis. So you filed your application and then you realize after 2 months, wait a second, I made a mistake. I want to get this corrected. Listen, don't waste your time. Don't start filling out another petition and then trying to send it over to USCIS. It's just going to be confusing. What you can do is when you're scheduled for your interview, the USCIS interviewing officer will sit with you and you'll get an opportunity to make corrections on the day of the interview. And the USCIS officer will be reviewing the application with you. So make sure you're familiar with what you filled out in the beginning of the process. A lot of times the process may take 14 months, 24 months until you finally get an interview. So you want to make sure you review the applications that you filed right before the interview so it's fresh in your head. Sometimes you might forget that you've been moving from one address to another. And another thing, if you realize that it's been 2 months into you filing the application and realizing you made a mistake, write it down on a piece of paper, make a note of it, and keep it in the same file that you have for USCIS, just in case if they want to re-review your documents or you want to sit down and jog your memory on what was submitted. Another thing what I would recommend is if you are submitting a marriage-based petition, you're a newlywed, and you don't have documentation, you may want to start figuring out how you and your spouse can prove that your marriage is bona fide. Now, how do I do that? Let me give you some examples. You have a cell phone plan and your spouse has a separate cell phone plan and you're both thinking about getting phones together and being under one cell phone plan. You can do that and you'll have both of your names in it, and that's one of the questions they might ask you at the interview. You may also end up purchasing a property together, so you'll have both names on the deed, or you have a lease agreement together, so you'll have both names on that. These are the type of documents you need to start gathering to show that you have, a valid marriage. Everything is appropriate to then submit at your interview to the USCIS officer as time goes by. So it's not really expected for you to just have all the evidence, up front because you're a newlywed, and you can just make sure that you're in the process along the way to gather these things. Some of the evidence could even be joint tax returns, right? You're going to have to file married jointly filing, and then you'll have things like you might end up having a baby in the process, or you might be pregnant. So these are things that you want to inform the officer at the interview when it's time for, things to be evaluated during your interviewing process. What other tips can I give you for being organized for your interview? Okay, well, as I stated, being a newlywed, or you're gathering documents for your parents to show like where they're residing, what they're doing, you might want to start gathering that evidence. You can't submit it yet because it's not like USCIS sent you an RFE or something. You don't want to start gathering evidence and just submitting it to USCIS to supplement the record. It doesn't work that way. You have to patiently wait for instructions from USCIS to see what to do next. So if you don't receive anything and you just get an interview notice, all right, great. Make sure you walk into that interview well prepared. So in that same folder that you have a copy of the exact submission for the petition that you filed, you want to now start putting in the original documents of what you have, like the tax returns. You have the original passport in that folder. You have an original birth certificate. You also want to make sure you take a copy as well. So if the USCIS officer is sitting with you and says, I don't really have the birth certificate in my file. Okay, great. Officer, I have a copy of the birth certificate. Would you like that? You can then hand it over to the officer and have the officer keep it, but you'll have everything ready so time is not being wasted for them to, ask for your original, then go in the back and make a copy, or whatever the case is. You want to make it very easy for yourself and also for the officer. So these are some tips and tricks that I recommend you make sure that you go through, you sit down in advance. It doesn't have to be literally a week or two or even months before the interview, but the process of being organized can start at the very beginning. You also want to take a look at, what documents you may need for the future or what might be expected of you, just to stay organized from the beginning so it can help everybody. All right, guys. Well, today's video was about staying organized and getting ready for your interview way in advance so you're not anxious, you're not worried. And if you do need an immigration attorney, you'll have the paperwork ready in order to have them review it. And if you need a lawyer to accompany you to the interview, that process can be made easy. All right, well, thank you for joining me today, and make sure to tune in, make sure to subscribe, like, and share with all of your friends and your family, and join back for another immigration update or tips and tricks to help you with your immigration process. Thank you.